All right, hello Professor Ward. My name is Nathan Wood. I am a senior marketing student here at KU, so I will be graduating here in just a couple of weeks. The campaign that I've chosen to discuss with you today is the Budweiser World Series campaign. So let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit of background about Budweiser. I know it's obviously a very well-known brand, a super American brand. So Budweiser brands itself as the king of beers. It's kind of a symbol, and it's an American tradition here. It's very well known and very resonant as a big beer leader here in America. Founded in 1876, headquartered right in the heart of America in St. Louis, Missouri. A little bit more about them as a consumer expectation. Consumers really expect an association between Budweiser and sports. Every year they've got a continual presence at the Super Bowl with their famous Clydesdales and their Golden Retrievers. So there's always a bit of a commonality and an expectation that Budweiser will be branding themselves very closely with sports, and particularly American sports. A little bit of background information in regards to the ad. So the ad depicts Budweiser and shows the Chicago Cubs' historic 2016 World Series victory. A little bit of background about that. So the Cubs have gone 108 years since winning their previous World Series back in 1908, the longest championship drought of any major sporting event. Hall of Fame announcer Harry Carey was kind of a household name. He was an icon in Chicago. Very, very well known, obviously. Became a little bit more famous with Will Ferrell's depiction of him in Saturday Night Live. However, was certainly a monumental sports figure, especially in sports journalism. One of his most famous calls is toward the end of his career said, "As sure as God made green apples, one day the Chicago Cubs are going to win the World Series, maybe sooner than we think." Unfortunately, Harry passed away in 1998, so in his lifetime he never once saw the Chicago Cubs win a World Series, with the drought being as long as it is. Chicago did honor him with a statue at Wrigley Field that still stands today, so he's still very much an icon in the sporting world. So the goal of Budweiser's campaign here, number one, they wanted to capitalize on what could possibly be a historic moment in sports. As I mentioned, it's been 108 years since the Cubs had won their last World Series. So Budweiser really saw an opportunity to associate themselves with something historic. They wanted to create an emotional appeal that spans far beyond the people of Chicago. Just sporting fans altogether, everyone kind of can relate to their Cinderella story or their team having a few down years. They can really see the heartache that Chicago's gone through for 108 years. So Budweiser wanted to kind of play on that emotional appeal. And lastly, they wanted to continue their brand's association with sports and American tradition, baseball being America's pastime, so very much an American game and a true American sport. So another opportunity right here for Budweiser as well. So about the ad itself, the ad it's a kind of a 2-minute video. It was depicted in kind of a storytelling way. It begins with images like the one that you see to your left, except much more nervous. Everyone's kind of nervously watching, showing the scenes down in Wrigleyville in Chicago. Fans at bars or in the streets, looking on nervously as the game draws to a close. All audio that is over. You've got the announcer's call, but due to some incredible creative work and editing, all of the audio commentary is actually remastered Harry Carey calls. So they allowed him to call the 2017 World Series, which is something magical that really, really played well with Chicago. Harry Carey himself is calling the 2017 World Series, which was something that was certainly magical to see. Each fan in the video is actually drinking Budweiser. It's important to note, though, that's never really a focal point of the ad. It's never really something that Budweiser wanted to push. It's certainly there intentionally, but it's never really pushed in your face. It really never seems like Budweiser's trying to sell you anything. So that's something that they did a really good job of. So did it work? In short, a resounding yes. What it did was it immediately tied into this Buds for You emotional appeal campaign, the This Bud for You campaign, kind of encouraging people to, toast a beer, here's to you, kind of share in that moment and what the beer really means. So it immediately tied into that there at the end, as you will see with their social media post that I'll show you in the next slide. But but it also allowed them to act fast. What it did was the advertisement was put out in an instant. It was first shown on the field at Wrigley Field the day of the game, or immediately following the World Series, but immediately was pushed out on YouTube, hence the social media front. Immediately pushed out on social media and really allowed it to spread quickly. Lastly, viewers can relate to those in the video. As I mentioned before, Cubs fans are not. We've all waited and waited for our underdog story. I myself am a huge Royals fan, so when the Royals finally were at the top of the mountain there in 2015, it was the first time in my lifetime that they'd, even made the playoffs the year before. So we can all relate to that underdog story. We all have our teams that really aren't very successful, and this kind of allowed viewers of the ad to relate to this and kind of get a sense of an emotional appeal. As for the metrics, as you see on the right, this right here is a Budweiser tweet immediately following the World Series caption, "Harry, they did it. The impossible is possible. Hear the legend call the game." So this right here is really clarifying to fans that really was Harry Caray's voice on the ad itself, kind of legitimizing what they've done here. The video was viewed over 3 million times on YouTube within just the first week alone, so it spread quickly. It was liked over 13,000 times. 71% of those views were organic or first-time views. This right here was 2.6 times the organic view rate for Budweiser's normal YouTube channel, so that was something that they were really very proud of. Was something that it was not only being seen, but being seen by new people every single day. And then lastly, a big stat here. Budweiser was Google and YouTube searched at an increased rate of 487%, so a whopping percentage, really allowing people to go and read more up on this advertisement that they've run. So the ad was successful definitely on a brand sentiment standpoint. It really did capture a moment of history. Whether you're a sports fan or not, this was a historic moment for the city of Chicago and baseball, and truthfully, it is America's pastime. It was a great moment in American sports. So Budweiser right here, as you can see in the very end of the ad, shows Harry Caray with the nice big Budweiser neon sign there at the end with his statue. It really did capture that moment of history. Additionally, it strengthened its American brand. Baseball is America's pastime, and it's great. It's game. So Budweiser was really able to strengthen that and their tie-in with sports. Additionally, they told a century-long story within 2 minutes. The commentary shows you can hear the heartache. You can hear the heartache in Harry Caray's voice in the beginning as he does make that call, saying that as sure as God made green apples, someday the Cubs are going to win the World Series. Someday. So they were able to introduce the ad with that before showing the angst and everything that went in the faces of all the fans who were hoping and praying for a championship, and then finally the celebration at the end. It told this whole story. Lastly, it created an incredible sense of emotional appeal that spans far beyond sports fans. As I mentioned, you don't need to be a sports fan to appreciate what was done here, and it's really, really an incredible thing to hear Harry Caray make that call and to see 108 years of losing, truthfully, and 108 years of just waiting and waiting for finally the day that the Chicago Cubs were going to be on top of baseball, finally overcome. So it was really cool to create that sense of emotional appeal, and you do not need to be a sports fan to appreciate that. Alright, that concludes the presentation, and there are any references to any sources that I made. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.